In this video, we'll talk about the basics of code and a vocabulary for digital design. UX and UI, HTML, CSS. There are a lot of acronyms when it comes to web code, but what do they really mean? A lot of times people say it means it's a cry for help because it's so confusing. But once you look at the basics, I think you'll be intrigued and you'll want to learn more. Let's start with HTML. Every web page you look at is written in a language called HTML. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and I don't care so much about you knowing that in particular, but I do want you to know what HTML does. It builds the foundation or structure of your page, every single web page that you look at. So HTML is the structure or skeleton of your page. It's where you determine how wide the page will be, how many photographs there will be, how many levels of hierarchy. It's the physical attributes of the page. CSS is the way to make your page look nice. It stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and again, I'm not that concerned about that particular acronym, but I do want you to know that with CSS, you'll style text, the color of your site, tables, and more. If HTML is the structure, CSS is the style. A third language that we'll talk about is key to web development, and that is JavaScript. JavaScript is an object-oriented language used to create interactive effects within web browsers. Things like a button that you'll push to submit an answer, being able to type in your email address in a box, anything that makes the website interactive is JavaScript. In short, JavaScript creates interaction. If HTML is the structure and CSS is the style, JavaScript adds interactivity. Try to remember those three concepts. HTML, again, is the structure, CSS is the style, and JavaScript allows things to happen. You just learned something about code, simple as it may be. If you wanted to use code to make this light bulb something that you could turn off and on, you'd use JavaScript, and the back end of this would look something like this. It might seem confusing at first, but just like traveling in Paris or in Spain or someplace where the language is not that familiar to you, you'll start to see things that make sense. You might see the image is a picture of bulb off or bulb on. Once you start to identify certain elements, it becomes decipherable. Here's another acronym I'd like you to be able to articulate. What's the difference between UI and UX? UI is user interface design. UX is user experience design. And these are actually two different things. UI is more akin to graphic design, as we've been talking about it. The typeface, the color, choosing elements that make a website aesthetically pleasing. UX is a little more analytical and technical. It's how to make something work well. Here's an example. If you were designing a product like this Heinz ketchup bottle, you would choose the shape of the bottle, the color of the bottle, the color of the logo, the way that the top is screwed on. That would be like user interface design. If you wanted to take a look at the outcome of using that bottle and adjust the design to make it a little more expedient, you might design a bottle something like this. It uses gravity so that the ketchup is always at the bottom of the bottle. It's made of plastic instead of glass, so it's something that you can squeeze and the ketchup comes out faster. That's closer to user experience design. One quick example for you to think about UI and UX. Now I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the code that might define typography and interaction on a very simple web page. Let's say I wanted to make a box so that it was something I could input type. Perhaps it's a button that is clickable. The first thing I would start to define is the first headline. That's the largest piece of text on this little page. that would be shown as H1 or caret H1, followed by a close H1. When you open a code, you also need to close the code. This is defining the largest headline on the page. Next, I want to put in simple text that says a little bit more about what's happening. That could be defined as a paragraph code. So caret P stands for paragraph, and you'll notice at the end of that line, I have done a caret close paragraph, end caret. If I forgot to put on the close paragraph, we'd have a coding error. So those are things that you always need to remember. Next, I want to install something that could be an interactive box, and I'm going to use the universal code caret input type equals quotation mark email quotation mark end caret. And then I want to define the type of text that would actually go inside that box. So it's a call to action for someone who's working with the website. And for that, on the same line, I would put in placeholder equals quotation mark your email, quotation mark end caret. And I could choose to make your email all uppercase, all lowercase, and whatever I type there will actually appear on my page. Then I want to put in a button, and so I'm going to put in caret input type equals quotation mark submit quotation mark end caret. And then let's say I'd like to make all of this centered. I'll put in a little bit more code and define some of the typography. I'll use caret style end caret. The H1 curly bracket would show text hyphen align colon center semicolon. And I've chosen a typeface called Pointer Gothic Text Condensed. So you can see how with code you can start to identify elements that becomes rather easy to understand. In this video, we've talked about HTML being the structure of your web page, CSS being something that helps you to adjust the styling of your page, JavaScript as a language that enables things to happen on the page, enables an interactivity, and the differences between user experience and user interface design.